What's going on, everyone? So yesterday, the Phoenix Suns fired head coach Frank Vogel. Now, honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with Frank Vogel, right? I just think Phoenix is not a well-built team. I said it as soon as it happened. When the Suns traded for Bradley Beal, I said they just signed their own death note. Like, that was it. That they weren't going to do anything. That, you basically have three guys, which I do believe three stars can still work in the league. They just have to complement each other. Right? Like, you look at the Phoenix Suns and it's like two of the guys in Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, they're essentially the same player. They play the same position. They have similar games, right? And then Kevin Durant, it's like you got three guys that are scoring options or primary scoring options that need the ball and are best effective with the ball. And it's just like, it doesn't make sense. You have no true playmaker to kind of put it together. You got no real just size and defense. Right? You're trying to use one of Bradley Beal or Devin Booker as the point guard, but neither are really a true playmaker. They can make plays, but neither of them are an actual playmaker. And so you saw it just was not very good. It was clunky at times. They don't have what they need. And, usually that's how it goes, right? The head coach is the first one fired. There's talks about them more likely than not bringing on Mike Budenholzer. I think it's going to be a lot of the same. Mike Budenholzer might be able to make the offense a little more smoother, but I still don't think Phoenix, ultimately, the only way they're going to get out of it is trading one of Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. It's just how it's going to end up being. I don't think it has anything to do with Frank Vogel. But that being said, a lot of people really want to see Frank Vogel back. A lot of people feel that Frank Vogel kind of got the S end of the stick, right? Trying to keep it, family friendly, but look, Frank Vogel, I don't think he's a bad coach by any stretch of the imagination. I understand why people want him back. I mean, last time he was the head coach, the Lakers won a championship, right? They had a couple bad seasons after championship run, but it wasn't really primarily his fault. But a couple things with Frank Vogel. One, the reason he had success in 2020, and I don't mean this in the sense of like, oh, he can't have success without it, but the reason he was able to keep everyone kind of in line in 2020 was Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd was the guy that was able to be the kind of player coach. He was the guy that was able to challenge LeBron and get in LeBron's behind. Anthony Davis, Rondo, right? Like, he was the guy that was respected. Frank Vogel has been known his entire coaching career as being kind of, non-aggressive, right? He's very passive. He's not big at calling people out. Right? He's kind of he doesn't want the confrontation. He doesn't want the conflict. You got guys like LeBron. You got guys like Anthony Davis. You got all the egos and people that are involved on a team. It's the same thing that happened with the Lakers literally just happened with the Phoenix Suns. Because Frank Vogel isn't that, hard-headed FU type of coach. He's not. When the Lakers had Jason Kidd was that guy. Jason Kidd was the guy that was able to tell you to go, F yourself, right? And so it's not a coincidence that as soon as Jason Kidd left, you started seeing everything go downhill. Now, it was, again, a combination of things. The Russell Westbrook situation was not ideal for Frank Vogel, but there were questions about Frank Vogel and the relationship with the Lakers even the previous year, and if he was still the guy. And I don't think he comes in and all of a sudden everyone just goes, LeBron starts respecting him more and stuff. I just think it's going to end up being a lot of the same problems, right? He had already lost that relationship. He already lost that respect. You're not going to be able to just come back in and get that immediately. And now the problem is that now you're fighting an uphill battle to gain respect. Also, why would Frank Vogel want to come back? That's like probably the biggest thing. It's like, why would Frank Vogel, I mean, obviously you could say money, but Lakers aren't going to pay him, some insane salary where he's like, let me kind of look past it. No, look, again, I like Frank Vogel. I just think he needs to go to a very specific team. I think he needs to be on a very specific roster, or he could be, if he's willing to take on an assistant role as a defensive assistant, right? Now, I wouldn't hate Okay, because again, a lot of it was the Russell Westbrook situation. Like a lot of it was just it was this domino effect of sequences that took place that kind of put Frank Vogel in a tough spot. Frank Vogel's trying to get Russell Westbrook to fit and buy in when everybody thought it wasn't going to work or fit or buy in. And, him and Russell Westbrook really bumped heads and didn't see eye to eye or get along. So, there is the idea of like, well, with Russell Westbrook gone, maybe Frank Vogel, he can kind of get through it. If you were to bring back Frank Vogel, you got to, at that point, you got to bring in like a JJ Redick or something, right? And I know some people are kind of like, oh, JJ Redick. No, he has to. Because you need somebody that can be your, quote unquote Jason Kidd. You need somebody that has and demands the respect, but also has the relationship and the connection to LeBron James as Jason Kidd did. So you need somebody that can be on the coaching staff where they can kind of be the guy to get in LeBron and get at LeBron, or, get into Davis and get at Anthony Davis. If you just hire Frank Vogel and let's say you go Frank Vogel, Terry Stotts, let's say you even get Atkinson as like an assistant, whatever. Right? Let's say you put together a great just bench and great coaching staff. None of those guys are going to be the guys that can do what Frank Vogel can't. None of those guys are going to be able to demand what is needed to be demanded in order to really get this team to buy into the sense. I don't see the Lakers even necessarily considering it. I also don't think Frank Vogel would consider it. I think if you were going to bring Frank Vogel back, you bring him in as like a defensive guy, right? Like, so whoever the Lakers hire, if they go with one of these assistants, right? There's a lot of talks about, Micah from the Minnesota Timberwolves. A lot of talk about Edelman from Minnesota, from the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, JJ Redick. Right? To me, if you were to get one of those guys, to have Frank Vogel kind of be on the bench alongside as like an assistant, and he's kind of in charge of like defense and things that he's good at, right? Defense, size, right? You build a roster, you can kind of run different schemes with big fellas and stuff like that, right? Like, and he could also be a guy that has the head coaching experience to kind of help out and help navigate for a first year head coach, because a lot of these assistants and even JJ Redick and most of the people that are linked to the Lakers are all assistants or, again, JJ Redick. So more likely than not, just based on the odds, Lakers are probably hiring a former assistant, or they're hiring a never been a coach, period, in JJ Redick. So to have Frank Vogel on the bench, I think could go a long way. But as far as him coming in and being the head coach again, I just think that ship has sailed with the Lakers. I think he'll look for a head coaching job somewhere else, which he may be able to do. He may be able to get, right? Like, I think ultimately, though, I think he'll probably take a little time off, or he'll go to the bench as like an assistant or something if he wants to continue to work. He's been fired from 2 jobs in basically a 2-year span. It's usually not great, right? And in my opinion, it hasn't really been all his fault. I'm not like a super, and I said it before, like I was fine with the Lakers firing Frank Vogel. And people asked, I was like, yeah, no, like it had to be done. Like, again, I'm not like this big Frank Vogel guy. I don't think he's like great. Like, I don't think he's like, man, like this guy, he's one of the top head coaches. Like, I think he's a very good head coach that if he has the right situation with the right personnel and the right pieces around him, I think can have some form of success. But I don't think he is like, I don't think he's a coach that necessarily makes his team that much better, right? Like, even you look at the teams that he's had success with, right? Which, I don't want to take away all credit, because he did turn like, Roy Hibbert and guys like that into like actual really good viable players when they were looked at as guys that, shouldn't even be in the league. But you look at some of those teams, like that Indiana team, that team was really good. Like that team probably with any coach would have been in a similar spot, right? Where they were, basically just fight if they could just get over the Miami hump, they're in the finals type thing. And then I mean, same thing with this Lakers team, the 2020 team. Right? Like that team was incredibly deep, incredibly talented, just had all the right and complementary pieces. Again, I'm not trying to take away too much from Vogel, but like that team, I think could have had the same success with a different head coach. I think a different head coach could have easily won a championship with that 2020. I mean, they were the best team all season, even before the break leading into the bubble. Like as much people like to pretend like that wasn't the case, like it was. They were the best team in the entire league. And before they went into that bubble, they were on like an insane run, right? Like so, yeah, that whole thing narrative is just silly. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? You like the idea of bringing in Frank Vogel? Do you think, like, that ship sailed? Don't rehash old coaches. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are. Love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.